Hello friends and welcome again. This is Books of the Book. My name is Davey Rodriguez, and every time we're so happy that you can take this time and be with us in this Bible study. We're studying the Gospel of John, and with us is Dr. John Pauline, and he is the Dean of Religion at Loma Linda, California, Loma Linda University in California. And we're so happy that he's able to share his insights. He is a Bible scholar, very brilliant, by the way. Dr. Pauline, welcome back. You have a doctorate. Tell us a little more about this doctorate. What is it? When did you get it?
Maybe I should tell you what you don't want to hear.
All right.
And that is that I started working on my PhD before you were born.
How do you know when I was born?
You told me the other day it was about 30 years ago, and
Wow.
I started 32 years ago, and it was at Andrews University in southwestern Michigan. And I began the program in the fall of 1981 and finished it in the spring of 1987. So it took about 6 years, which is not too bad considering that I was working pretty much full-time 5 of those 6 years. So
Andrews University is in Michigan.
yeah.
Okay.
And a doctorate basically is 3 things, at least at Andrews University. You spend time in classwork where you're learning from other people who know your broad field, New Testament, a little bit of Old Testament in my case. And then there's the comprehensive exams where you spend 6 to 9 months just reading everything you can get your hands on until it all sounds the same. When you're not learning anything more from the reading, you've probably mastered the field. And you pass exams on all those topics in the broad field of New Testament, et cetera. And then the dissertation, you go deep into a narrow area. In my case, my dissertation was understanding the 7 trumpets of Revelation with a particular eye on how they use the Old Testament to bring out the message. And so my primary contribution to world scholarship is probably a methodology for studying allusions to the Old Testament in the book of Revelation.
So if I'm interested in a doctorate, would it be easy for me to pass your exams?
Well, in about 15 years, no. It would take a while, though. You would want to get a master's degree first, and then you would go into the coursework for the doctorate, and then come the exam. So, yeah, you might be 3-4 years away where you are now.
And that's that's full-time study.
That's full-time study.
Wow. Well, today we are in chapter 13, by the way, of the Gospel of John. If you have your Bibles, you can get them and open them with us. We are going to be studying this spiritual gospel, as Dr. Pauline says it. So, Dr. Pauline, you said that now we are in the private ministry of Jesus.
Right. With chapter 13, you've made a transition. Up until chapter 12, Jesus is ministering in public places, and he's not much of a teacher there. It's more what he does, sometimes negotiations, conversations with different people. But here, from chapter 13 through 17, it's private. He's with his own disciples, and it's more of a teaching context. He's sharing things that he wants them to know. In particular, here in private, he's preparing them for life without him. So in a sense, he's preparing the next generation. He's the first generation, they're the next generation, and then John is directed to those who follow, those who don't know any disciples like us, and who simply need to make our way in the world through the words that John has left for us.
Okay, so which verses are we studying here, and where do we pick up?
We'll be studying verses 1 to 31 in chapter 13 of the Gospel of John, and we won't cover every verse, but we will be able to cover, I think, some of the main points here. I would point out that you're definitely in the shadow of the cross here in chapters 13 through 17. Jesus knows he's going straight to the cross. Disciples probably are not yet sure what's going on, but it's clear he's going away. And so they feel like they're about to lose him. They're not entirely sure why in this gospel. So the shadow of the cross is over the upper room here throughout. And the purpose really of writing all this is for that second generation who has to live without Jesus and without the disciples. After John's death, chapters 13 to 17 give the solid spiritual grounding that everyone needs to relate to Jesus. So we're going to spend several programs on this section of the gospel. So you have, first of all, the foot washing story. Mm-hmm. And then there's a discourse at the end of 13 in chapter 14. And then Jesus says, let's go. And they're going to go to the garden where he will be betrayed. But I guess when they get up from the table, like we often do, people still hang around and talk. Mm-hmm. And so for chapters 15 and 16, they kind of got up to go, but Jesus keeps on talking. The interesting thing about this whole section, it's not a coherent sermon or conversation. It's almost as if John was collecting bits and pieces of all kinds of good stuff that Matthew, Mark, and Luke didn't share. Nearly all of this is new to John. And so it's almost like sound bites, like a highlight film of some of the best sayings that Jesus said that Matthew, Mark, and Luke didn't notice. Mm-hmm. So if you try to read chapters 13 to 17 through as a coherent narrative, it's hard to follow. But it seems almost like collecting bits and pieces that go together. So why don't we go to chapter 13 and verses 1 to 3. Setting that up, in ancient times, of course, people didn't have showers, and bathtubs and all that kind of stuff. So most people were pretty accustomed to dirt. And if they took a bath, if they washed everything and were clean, which they would do before going to a banquet, for example, then walking to the banquet, it's very dusty. And so the feet would get dirty. They just have sandals on. Some would even go barefoot. So when you get to the place of the banquet, you need to have a foot washing in order to be truly clean for the banquet. So that's the setting behind this. And foot washing was normally done by slaves. Mm-hmm. It was not something that a person of any kind of status would do for another. So that's the setting for what Jesus is about to do and totally shocked the disciples. Verses 1 to 3.
Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God. And verse 4, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself.
Now, these verses are very, very deeply meaningful to me. First of all, Jesus knows who he is. He knows that he is God come down in the flesh at this point. He may not have known that completely as a child, but he certainly knows it here. He is conscious of who he is. He's also conscious of who the disciples are. The disciples are a mess. And one of those disciples is right now thinking of how he's going to conveniently betray Jesus. And yet Jesus doesn't pick and choose. Well, here's the good disciples, here's the bad ones. No, he washes all those feet. Mm-hmm. He knows what he is doing. And to me, this is so precious in that he doesn't turn away from Judas. But he washes Judas's feet too. He treats them all the same, even though some, or at least one, is about to betray him. And he does this conscious of the cross and conscious that he is God in the flesh. If I'm going to the cross and I know it, I'm thinking about me. Mm-hmm. And Jesus, in facing all of that, is thinking about his disciples. That's amazing. And the whole point is, knowing that he's God, he is now going to demonstrate what God is like. There are so many people that think of God as punitive, as arbitrary, as severe, judgmental. And here you have the clearest picture of God that we will ever see. God in the flesh at a moment of crisis when he's about to be abused by just about everybody, sits down to wash the feet of disciples who don't even care. They're all talking about who's going to be the greatest, And the greatest of all, of course, would be Judas. And he washes their feet nevertheless. This is a God who keeps on loving, keeps on giving no matter what we've done. And for me, that's important, because for people who have been afraid of God, people who feel insecure about their faith, to realize what Jesus did here, put yourself in Judas's place. Jesus would wash your feet too. Have you done anything as grievous as Judas did? If the answer is no, I haven't gone that far, then there's hope for you. Jesus would wash your feet too, right now, today. And that's the message that comes through so powerfully here.
And that's very encouraging. Verse 1, it says that he loved them to the end. And that statement right there is just so powerful. That
Even on the cross, he's thinking of them.
Right.
He's thinking of his mother. He's thinking of the beloved disciple, even on the cross. And that's not so much to say, boy, you should be like that, although we can aspire to, but it's telling us what God is like. That God is other-centered, that God is us-centered, even in the midst of all the complications the universe might present. In the midst of that, Peter resists. He's the only one that resists. And it shows you the two sides of resistance. You have the rebellious side of Judas, who doesn't really care, and he's going to go out there and do what he wants to do. And then you have the true believer, Peter, the ultra-conservative. He will follow Jesus anywhere except to have his feet washed. What's up with that? Somebody will go anywhere for Jesus, but doesn't want his feet washed. It's a pride thing. Even in our eagerness and devotion to follow Jesus, sometimes we're doing it ultimately for ourselves. We want to be there with Jesus when he's crowned King of the universe, you see. And so this subtle human side comes in, and Peter says, no, you will, no way in all eternity is kind of the meaning of the Greek there. And Jesus goes, no way in all eternity you're going to wash my feet. You see, Peter comes face to face with the fact that the gospel is free. But in order to have the gospel, you need to come in humility. The key to receiving the gospel is admitting our need. And that's where some of us fall short. The one thing we don't want to admit is our need. The one thing, how many marriages have gone on and no one ever used the phrase, I'm sorry? You see, there's something about us to say, I'm sorry, to truly admit need, to admit mistakes. It seems to go deep against the grain for human beings. And Peter, the most faithful disciple of Jesus in many ways, falls into this trap where he says, no way, you're not washing my feet.
And Jesus is about to teach him that great lesson of humility.
Yeah.
Here he is so proud, and Jesus is going to teach him that the lesson of contrary to his character.
But let me say one thing. I mean, when you hear something like this, there's a temptation to say, oh, I got to be more humble. No, you can't produce it. Human beings can't produce it. Humility is a miracle of God. And if you recognize in your own heart right now, my pride is right out there. My humility is zero. The only way I know to deal with it is take it to God and just say, Lord, help me to do that which I can't do myself. Help me to totally yield myself to you, to be used by you any way you wish. If you ask him to do that, he will do it for you.
Amen. Well, friends, we're going to continue on the Gospel of John in chapter 13. Stay with us.